Hey, what is up all you do-it-yourselfers? My name's Dylan Taylor and this is Dylan's DIY Workshop. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a tiny little tree out of wire. This is the first one that I made and I was just farting around with the idea of how to do this. And so what this is made out of is tiny wires came out of an extension cord like this. What this tree is made of is about 9 inches of this wire, which is found inside of an extension cord like this. So don't go cutting up your parents' extension cords to find wire like this. Find an old extension cord that was maybe garbage anyways, and see if this is inside of it. So what we're gonna do is just cut off that amount that we need with a pair of wire cutters. We don't need the rest of that wire. And then what we wanna do from there is strip this out, which is usually the hard part. One of the things you can do to strip this wire is just take an X-Acto knife, making sure not to cut yourself. We want to cut the yellow housing on the outside, split it open like that. Once we have it like that, making sure your knife's out of the way and you're not going to pull your arm into it. Hold on to the 3 wires, just kind of do one of those and see how it pulled that away. Now this is obviously easier the shorter the length of wire you have, because the shorter the length of wire you have, the less resistance there is. Don't know how well that will work if you have a lot more. Just the further down you cut it, the easier it'll be. So we've got these wires here. Let's see if I can get a shot of the end of it. So you see the ends, how they have a ton of little bits in it? That's what you're looking for, is these 3 strands to have a bunch of little strands. We're just gonna kind of cut away like so and try to peel up the plastic. We're gonna do the same thing with, we're basically doing the same thing with this wire that we just did with the larger wire, because we want to get the copper out from inside. So we just take one cut right down the length of it. And hopefully we haven't messed up any of the wires by pushing too hard. So what I've done is I've cut the strip down this black wire, and then what I'm going to do is just try to pull it back. The wire here, and I'm going to bend the wire down the path that I just cut. And you'll notice that I cut a few of the wires since they're so fine. And what we're going to do is just try to rip the wire using that. See how the wire is ripping? I did not cut that far. I'm just holding on to this wire hard enough, and I've got enough leverage that it's just slicing its own way through. Now that we've got this, which is what we were looking for, we're just going to fold it in half, just so that they don't go anywhere. Just grab it down here at the bottom with one finger, and then up at the top, and just kind of twist. I'm holding on to all the loose ends so that they don't go flying each time, and I'm just twisting so that down here we have one solid shape, about that long. So that's maybe 2 inches. It's about 2 inches. So I'm going to do the same with the rest of them so that we've got that. So we'll have 3 different pieces because we've got 3 different wires. Now I'll go ahead and speed through that. Alright, so we've got these 3 now, and since I'm making just a really small tree, I don't need more than 3. The idea here is that we've made 3 big pieces down here, and we've got all the fluffy stuff up here, which is going to turn into our tiny branches. So the smallest branches will be just individual strands, and so the tree trunk needs to be made up of larger ones. So we can either use a vise or a pair of pliers. In this case, I'm just going to use a pair of pliers. I'm assuming everyone has a pair of pliers. I don't quite know if everyone has a vise at home. A vise is going to be easier because it's not going to move. So if you have a vise, maybe go ahead and use that. But we're basically just looping all of these together. Now we've got it all together, that's the idea, but I want to add more twists in here, because if we look at it, it's a little too few twists, I guess you could say. So what I want to do is add a few more in. That's where I'm going to grab another pair of pliers. Now that this is actually, I'm going to take a pair of my duckbill pliers for wire bending and crafts and things like that. They don't have any teeth, so they're not going to mar the metal. I will leave a link if I can find an Amazon link to pliers. And if you actually use my Amazon link, it helps me out because I get a small percentage of that sale because I sent you guys to Amazon. I would only ever recommend products that I actually use and believe in. Alright, that seems to be about as good as it can get it. And down here at the bottom, I'm going to try to pull them back apart because we're going to be attaching it to this rock afterwards. We're going to be drilling a hole in it and then sticking the wires in. Next thing that we are going to do is hold on here and take our individual branch and we're going to twist it off here. So that's going to be one branch where our original strand was, and then we'll twist these other two together a bit, keeping them apart up at the top. We'll twist them together right here to simulate the trunk continuing, but being smaller. You know, you can use your pliers if your fingers aren't as tough. I'm not saying my fingers are tough, but if your fingers aren't quite as tough as maybe they could be, you know, just go ahead and use pliers. It's not the end of the world. And so we're gonna then break this off here. See how each time I want it to go to a different branch, I just twist a little bit, and then if I want to keep two together, I will twist them together. So that's what we're looking at so far. Here's our first big branch, continues on the trunk, and then up to these two. So I will twist them individually. And the tighter you twist it, I've noticed, the more it looks like it's a limb of a tree. So this is a fairly new method that I haven't really done much with. This is the first one that I did, this other one that I showed you guys. Then once you want another branch, you just kind of twist it off. You grab, you know, maybe, I'll zoom in. You grab a few strands. So in this case, we're just gonna grab, I don't know, maybe 10 little strands, and we're just gonna twist them together over here so that we got one branch coming off of this branch. And see they've got a straggler there, so we'll just group those back together with the main branch, which we will twist together real tight with our fingers. And this wire's fine enough that it doesn't really hurt your hands, but at the same time you could just use your pliers again. There's no harm in that. So you'll notice that all of the points on this tree are the same distance away from the base. That's because all of the wires are the exact same length. So if you want one branch to be shorter, go ahead and just snip it off right there. Do be wary of all the tiny pieces of wire going everywhere. You don't want to get those in your feet if you're doing it on carpet or something. So just make sure that those don't get places where they're going to cause issues. Okay, then you can take the end of that branch where we've just got it like that, make another little tiny branch off of that with 2 or 3 wires, and then maybe just like an individual wire, maybe split that off into just single wires. Now another pair of pliers that I've noticed are really good are fishing line pliers. So if you have a tackle box and you don't mind the smell of fish, go grab those or buy yourself a new pair. And they don't have teeth on them either, so use those and it's not gonna mar up the metal, so you'll still have a shiny wire tree. So that really is just the basics of it. I'm gonna go ahead and keep twisting these branches because it's kind of a repetitive thing, and I don't need to keep showing every single branch. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do this real quick, and I will catch back up with you guys and show you how we're gonna attach it to the rock when we're done. Okay, so a little update here. Grab another light here, I'll get it on this. So update on the bonsai. This is what we're dealing with right now. This is the bonsai that we're looking at. It's looking more like a bonsai to me, how it's all shaped and just kind of like droopy and whatnot. So what I've done is I just bent this piece down, so instead of it being straight up, there's a curve right there, and then there's also a curve here. And so I basically just, once I had the branches twisted together, I just bent them the direction that I kind of wanted it to go. And since it's a tree, it needs to look organic, so you don't have to be super duper finicky with it. It really doesn't matter how it goes, because trees will grow any which way in nature. It kind of looks like it's been groomed as a bonsai, and I think that's what I'm going for. So I'm just gonna keep adding to the ends of these branches. Alright, so we've got the tree here and we've got the bottom 2 pieces, if you remember that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip it so that the wires are all by themselves, taking the wire cutters and with one cut so that we don't end up with a bunch of frayed ends, cutting it all. So with that, tie them together just like the branches. Maybe we'll make this tree a bit shorter so that we've got some root to work with here. Actually, yeah, we'll make the tree a bit short. Then we're gonna twist those up like we had done with the branches, and we're gonna do the same thing down here with this one. I'm actually just gonna cut the end off right there. Again, all this wire, just make sure that you don't get it places you don't want it. One of these right at the bottom of the tree, oh, this is difficult to see, right at the bottom of the tree. So I've got the base of the tree. We'll pull these roots up and these roots and these roots. So almost as if it was a taproot of a real tree, I'm twisting it all together, and that is going to go into the rock and get glued in, and the rest of these roots will just get hung over top. So this will be doing the actual holding of the tree to the rock, and then the roots will be mostly cosmetic, with depending on how far around the rock you can wrap them, but the most of the weight of the tree is going to be on that little tiny taproot. So the next thing we need to do before we can make all these roots is drill a hole in our rock. So to do that, you're going to need a masonry drill bit, and I've got an industrial grade one. It doesn't really matter. It depends on how big your taproot is and how big the rock is. So I've got a 5/32 or 4mm, and I got industrial just because some of these rocks that I have don't seem to work with the regular masonry drill bit, and hopefully this works. See which way your rock sits flat, because that's going to be the best way to have the tree attached to it, is the way that it already naturally sits. So it doesn't sit very nice this way, but it does sit fairly nice this way. And so our hole is going to go somewhere in here. I'm just going to mark it with a pencil. I'm going to go right here on the topmost part of the tree. And head over to the vise. Okay, so I've got it mounted in my vise that has wooden jaws, and also within the holes that hold the jaws on, so it's not going to move anywhere. So just because I need to drill this hole in a specific spot on a rounded surface, I'm going to use an awl to mark where we're going to start. You want to make sure you're wearing proper eye protection when doing this. You really don't want any chunks of eyes. And also proper breathing apparatus, respiratory protection, because you really don't want to breathe in the dust from a rock. I don't want to drill it all the way through, so what I'm going to do is just drill it as close as possible the other side. I don't want to drill it all the way through because I don't want there to be a hole on the other side. Alright, now we've got something that looks like this. Now, I always like to make sure that all the dust is off of here, so I'm going to go rinse this in the sink and dry it off. And also make sure that all the dust is off of your vise or wherever you're holding. You don't want that to get in the air, and you don't want to breathe it in. A good way to do that is with a wet paper towel. Now that we've got the hole drilled in the rock and have it cleaned out, just going to make sure that that fits in there, and yes it does. We're going to have to trim off these extra big pieces or just wrap them around down here, and I'm just going to wrap them around down here just so that the adhesive has more to hold on with. Alright, test fit that, and it goes all the way down, which is perfect. So we're going to figure out what position we want this tree to be on this rock, and I think for me it's going to be right here. Okay, now that we've got the gist of that, we're going to get our adhesive out, and for this specific project, I am using Gorilla Glue, super glue. That's it. Nothing fancy, just your standard super glue. This is kind of more of a gel-like super glue, so you're gonna want something similar. So all I'm gonna do is just squirt it down in the hole, making sure that it touches the top edges, because we don't really necessarily fill the hole. And then we're going to drop this in just like that, and make sure that the super glue is going to hold, and we definitely need some more in there, so we just squirt some more down in there. So that is how I would like the tree to sit. Set the rock down and make sure that it stays that way. I've got this branch down here. I'm going to let the glue dry before I go ahead and try to change this. The tree's really slanted over there. I'll use some masking tape to hold it down where I want it to be glued. Alright guys, that's where I finished it off. Like, all I did after that was I took the tape off that we left on there. Beautiful, beautiful focus. This is the tree. It is done, and it's on this little rock, and ta-da! It says made in Canada by Dylan Taylor. Handheld shot here, first one in the video. To get this right here, all those tiny little roots, I literally did the exact same thing as I did up here. I just spread it out a little bit more and flat over the rock. So we've got branches here, basically the same as a branch up here, and then we've got all these tiny little roots that are glued down. So the only thing I did was I lifted it up wherever there was a spot where it would lift up, so mainly the big roots, this one and this one. I lifted it up once I had the pattern all drawn out. I put a dab of super glue on the rock, and then I took my masking tape, put it over top, and just wrapped it around the rock till it dried. And you can't see any remnants of the glue except for right here. See, there's just a little bit of white right there. Scrape most of it off though, so that's the only spot. That's the only thing you gotta be wary of. Don't put too much super glue on. This is the end of the tree. Take a look at the bottom here. Go. Made in Canada by Dylan Taylor. 11/13/18. 13th of November 2018 for anybody watching this years down the road. Now to write that on there, I just used this micron pen right here, this number 3. I started writing on it with my number 1. I ran out of ink, so used this and it worked fine. And then just so that it didn't wipe off the rock because it started to immediately, what I did is I put a little bit of Tremclad clear coat on. So that is just this rust paint clear coat. I just opened it up, took a little foam brush, and I just literally just wiped a the tiniest bit on this rock while I had it held in my vise, and then I let it dry. I tried to speed that drying up by hitting it with a torch quickly. There's no need to do that, just take your time. And guys, that is going to be it for this video. I'm trying to get me and the rock in focus at the same time, and this is not working. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate every single one of you stopping by and taking the time to watch this video, and I hope that this has inspired you to create something similar to this right here someday in the future, or maybe anything, make anything. I truly do love making things, and this is something that I love doing. So thank you for watching, and special thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for allowing me to do this in a monetary way so that I can actually make videos and do it as almost like a living. It's between Patreon and ad revenue, I can almost pay for all of my expenses, minus a few $100s a month. But other than that, like this whole thing's working out really great. Like I love creating videos every single day. I love creating things every single day, and it's just awesome. So thank you to all my Patrons for all the support, and if anyone else wants to help support me, there will be a link to my Patreon page in the description as always, and also up in the top corner of the screen right here if you want to click that. And a huge special thank you to the top tier Patreon supporters, which is a reward for being that tier Patreon supporter, and that would be to Randy, Robinbert, and Mike Maxwell. Thank you guys so much for being there and for the undying support and love. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are new, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please share this video with a friend, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, give it a big old thumbs up. See you guys all next time. Peace out. Outro song.